So today we are going to start with the very important topic in the C sharp. Even if you will go for an interview and when it is coming to working on a project, so you must know the object-oriented programming language concept. Let's say how the OOPs we use in our real life. This is very, very important to work on any project. Even what are the code you will write in the backend side, you will create their classes, you will create their methods, and you will do so many things over there. So in that case, you have to think about where I should use class, where I should use inheritance, where I should use the polymorphism, and where we should use the various things. So today's session is about that object-oriented programming concept. So now let me first cover the theory part, then I will come to the hands-on one. So please take the notes. So when it is coming to the object-oriented programming, so the object-oriented programming main objective is to increase the flexibility and the maintainability of a program. It means what are the program you are writing, it should be flexible enough so that we can do the changes in the future. Because what happens here, what are the software you're building today? We have to keep updating. We have to keep adding the set of features over there. So that's why we have to use a practice, we have to use the mechanism which can help us to deal with it. Okay. So when it is coming to object-oriented programming languages, so object-oriented concept, you will find out in the C++, C Sharp, Java, and other programming languages as well. So we having the four pillars of the OOPs. The four pillars are abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. These questions are going to be asked in the interview commonly. What is the abstraction? What is the encapsulation? What is the inheritance? So first try to understand these four important concepts. In every interview, these four important concepts are going to be asked to you. So make sure whatever the doubts and the query you have, please ask me. I will answer the things. So now let's first understand what is the abstraction. So abstraction is a mechanism where we are showing only the essential features without describing the background details. Like let's take a simple example. We having a login page. Of course, the login page, whatever you are creating, we just taking from the user to input. I'm taking the username, I'm taking the password. Only two things I'm taking from the end user, even two things we are exposing to the end user. So when the user is entering the username and the password and clicking on the login button, so behind the scene, we are doing so many things. We have to check the username and password availability in the database. How we are doing it, user is not aware of. How we are validating you, user is not aware of. So here, to log in into the system, we are only exposing the necessary information. The other things we are abstracting from the end user. So this is an example of abstraction we having there. Make sense? So ultimately, you have to keep in the mind whatever the things we are going to show to the user are where we need to take the input, only the necessary things we need to expose, other things we are hiding, that is coming under the abstraction mechanism there. The next thing we having the encapsulation. So when it is coming to the encapsulation, in case of encapsulation, whenever we are going to encapsulate something, the simple example here, whatever the medicine we take, we having a capsule over there. So within the capsule, of course, we fill our medicine in powder format. Exactly same way when it is coming to dealing with the real world. So in the real world, we having the objects, and objects having the attributes, object having the behavior. Let's take the example of any project. Let's say I'm taking the example of, let's say, a e-commerce application. In the e-commerce application, what happens here? We having in the e-commerce application, we having various real world objects. Can you tell me what are the real world objects we having there? In the e-commerce application, what are the real world objects we having? Simple. Can you tell me the answer? What are the real world objects in the e-commerce application? Okay, product. What about other? Shopping cart and okay. So what are the application you will finding out around you, whether it's a e-commerce application, food delivery application, we having the flight booking system, any other. So there we having the many real world objects, like we having customer, we having product, we having category, we having order. So these are the real world objects. And every real world objects having some attributes. Am I right? If we're taking the example of customer, how many attributes is having? Customer having the customer ID, name, address, contact number. So these are the attributes we having for a customer. Am I right? And of course, the customer will perform some action as well. What action? So we having the various activity for a customer, where customer is adding the item into the shopping cart, where customer is doing the payment. Am I right? So ultimately, the encapsulation is a process where we are binding the object state and the behavior together into a single unit. And how it can be done? It can be done, of course, using a class. So class is the example for the encapsulation where we are binding the fields. Fields are similar to attributes. What are the attributes we having in the real world objects in the C#? We will represent it with the help of properties. In properties, we say in simply fields. If you know about the C++ language, in the C++ language, we commonly use the word fields. And what are the methods we are creating inside the class? You might having a method display, detail, add customer, remove customer. So those methods where we are doing something. So we are just going to encapsulate both the things into the one entity. And to that one entity, we are calling the class. Make sense about the encapsulation? So this is about the encapsulation we have. The next one we having the inheritance. So we created a single class. We just display the necessary detail. Now the question is here, do we have any way where we can reuse the feature from the previous class to another one? So there we comes into the inheritance. So inheritance are similar to the inheritance we having the real life, like we having our parents. So our parents, what are the property, whatever the things they having, ultimately that is for ours also. Exactly same with the inheritance, what are the parent class having the methods and properties which are public are accessible into the child class. Even the protected one also are accessible to the child class. But anything that is private, we cannot access. So this is about the inheritance. I'm sure inheritance, you know, it's very simple one. The next one we having the polymorphism. So when it is coming the polymorphism, so polymorphism is about the ability of an object to behave in multiple ways. So when it is coming to the ability to behave in a multiple ways, that is coming under the polymorphism. The example here, just take the example of yourself. So when it is coming to yourself at home, you are a member of a home where you having some set of responsibilities you might be doing. But let's say whenever you're going to the college, you are their student. So what are the responsibility you having? You are doing over there. Now let's say you are going to a shopping mall. So there you are behaving as a customer. So as a customer, whatever you having the things, you are doing the things over there. Okay. The another example here, let's say we having a smartphone. So smartphone is a single object, but it can be used for various purpose. Let's say making the call, listening the music, sending the emails, taking the pictures, and many others. So polymorphy is about the ability of an object to behave in multiple ways coming under the polymorphism. And we having the two types of polymorphism, static and dynamic. Static means the polymorphism which we are deciding on the compile time, that is a static one, and the polymorphism that is deciding on runtime, that is coming the dynamic one. So for the static, we having the method overloading and operator overloading. And dynamic, we having the method overriding. So these are the types of polymorphisms coming there. Make sense to everyone? Now let's come to the code, how we can create the class and object. So just come to the Visual Studio. Before that, I'm going to create a project. So just open your command prompt. And today we are going to create the day 4 project. So just use .NET new console and make sure you are inside the code folder, cd code. Then I'm using here .NET new console. The name of the project is, let's say, C# day 4. It is C# day 4 I'm using over there. Now create it. So I'm just going to create a console application with the name of C# day 4, like this way. Money anything with whatever you are deciding on compile time. It is coming into the static polymorphism. Compile time you can predict before running the code. Anything that is going to be predicted at the execution of the program. That is the runtime one. This is about the polymorphism. At the runtime, when the behavior is decided, is a runtime one. When the behavior is decided on the compile time, that is the static one. Simple. I hope the things are clear to everyone. Real-time example for method overriding, I suggested here. Let's take a simple example where you having a bank account class. Okay, so you have seen we having the bank account. In the bank account, we having the various types of bank account. Like we having the saving account, current account. Now the question is here, in the bank account, we having a method for calculating the interest. Am I right? So what happens here? We can have a, just take the example of calculating the interest. So what are the calculating the interest method you have? That interest method we can override into our current class to make it 0, because in case of current account, the interest is 0. We don't have any interest amount there. But in the saving account, we having a interest, let's say 5%, 6%, whatever is valid for that time. So ultimately goal is for this current account, interest rate is different. Saving account, interest rate is different. So we are overriding the default behavior of calculating the interest in the bank account. Make sense to everyone? This is example for the runtime one. A screen I have already shared. I don't think there should be any challenge to look at the screen. I'm right. So console, I'm just showing. I'm not doing anything. You asking the question, I'm answering them. Simple. So I hope you have created the project. Now just open the VS Code and just open that project. I'm opening that project for the C Sharp. So this is my code and this is my C Sharp day 4 project. I have opened here. Encapsulation example I have said to you when it is coming to the objects in the real life. So objects in the real life having the attributes and objects in the real life having some behavior. So how the objects of the real life will represent in the programming? Of course, we create a class there. Let's say, take the example of student. So what you will create? The student object you will represent with the alphabet student class. So student will have attribute like the student ID, name, address, contact number. Then you will have the student behavior. The student behavior. Let's say display detail. You will have add a student, or you can have submit fee detail. Many behavior might be there. So those behavior we are representing using the methods. So whenever you are combining the attributes, or you can say field plus behavior means methods. So to that encapsulation, we are calling the class. So class is example for encapsulation, simple. Hello everyone. So let's take a example. So we are going to create a class here. So I will create, of course, a student class where we will perform some operation. So here I'm adding a class student. Do you know default access modifier for a class in the C Sharp? So default access modifier for a class in the C Sharp is internal. Internal means you can access it only inside the same assembly. We cannot access it in another assembly. So what will happen when you will compile the code? It will actually create a assembly inside the debug folder. You will get the assembly. Assembly means the DLL, whatever you will get, or exe you will get, to that we are calling the assembly. So if one DLL class you are willing to use another DLL class, you should make it public. Otherwise, you cannot access it. So I'm making it public so that wherever I'm willing to use it, I can use it here. Now in the student class, we need to define the property. Before that, let me explain about the class. What is the class? So class is a user-defined data structure. It is user-defined data structure because it is defined by the user. I can define as per my requirement the number of properties. I can define as per my requirement the number of methods. So class is a user-defined data structure we having. And it acts as a template for an object. Or some people say it is a blueprint for an object. But I will say it is act as a template for an object. And class is, of course, reference type. It always store inside the heap in place of stack, because the primary data type like integer, we having the decimal, these always store in the stack. But here the class is a reference type, so it always stored on heap. This is about the class. So now let's say inside the class in the C Sharp, we having a property. So property we having here, let's say ID for student. We having the string for name, and we having here a property for a string, let's say address. Yeah. So what happens here, before looking into the property, let me explain. If I can define these things like this way as well. It is not the case. I need to define the ID like this way. I can define the ID and name like this way also. Even address also, I can define like this. So I can define my student ID and name and address like this way. So by default, what are the things you are defining inside the class? It is private. If let's say I'm not defining any access modifier, so it is private. So by default, access modifier is here private. Private means I can access it only inside the class. I cannot access it outside the class. Even we can have the protected as well. So protected one, we can only access inside the same class as well as inside the child class. But public we can access using the class object anywhere. So this is the things we have over there. Now, when it is coming to the field, these are the field inside the class. Of course, these fields value we need to set. So what happens here, for setting the value, you might be creating a method. Even in the C++, we do the same thing. We having the method, let's say set name. So we define the method in the C++, if you know the C++, set name, where I will receive a parameter like this way, and I will assign to the name here. Let's say it will be this dot name equal to name. So we do the things in the C++ like this way. Even for returning the value, we can define the get name method as well, because it might be the case it is a private one this way. So when it is a private one, we define the things like this way, set name, and we having a get name. So we having get name and set name. For get name, I'm just writing here like this way. And the return type will be here a string. So benefit of this approach is actually I'm just protecting this name field, because before setting the name, I can add here some validation. I can add here some validation. If let's say name is empty, means it is not having any value, then don't set it. Means name value you have to set only when it is not null. So here I'm adding some restriction, some validation I'm adding. Similar way, at the time of retrieval, I can do some calculation, because sometimes it can be the case we having, let's say, first name and the last name, and you have to return the full name. So to return the full name, I can combine the first name and the last name. So these things we do with the for a get method and the set method. But in the C#, these two methods, they have included as a part of the property. So the property label, we having the getter, we having the setter. So instead of writing this much code, I'm just going to simplify it using my property here. Getting the things, why we creating the property? Yes or no? Public, a string, it is a getter, it's a setter. So now getter, I can expand as we having the get method, and setter also this way. And I just made it now public here. Same way for address also we are using property. So whenever we create the class in the C#, you should always use the property like this way, because property is supporting the getter and setter, and based upon the requirement, we can manipulate it as I have given you the example. So do you have any query regarding the class level property we have defined? Are good to go ahead, everyone? If you're willing to add the checks here, I can add the checks like this way. Here, we having a value as a built-in one here. If value not equal to null, then set it. So this is my setter, and here I can add a private field. Private field, let's say name. And I am setting here name, private string name equal to value. This one. And in getter, I can return name. This one. So this is the way how we can define the property in the C sharp in place of a separate get and the separate set method. So the C sharp property is acting as a getter and setter. So getter is for retrieving the value and setter is here for setting the value. As we did before this method, now we did using this one here. Okay. Neeraj, the objective for defining the property is whatever the field you having in the class label. At the class label field value, let's say you are setting, but before setting, you want to add some restriction. The restriction is here. Let's say the name cannot be null, or let's say the name cannot be a number. So such things I will check before setting the value. So for that purpose, what I need to do here, I need to add a method separately like this way. Set method, where I'm checking these things. But instead of creating a separate set method, we are using a setter inside the property label like this way. Similar way for getter, for returning the things, as I said the example of, let's say, you having the full name property and full name you have to return. But full name is not exists in the database. It is only exists at the UI level. So in that case, the full name property I will create and then I will combine their first name and last name. I can return the value. It's simple. So that is about the property here. Value is a built-in one in the C sharp property. So whatever the things you will set, because when I will create the object of this student class, that time I will try to set the value of name field. So that time it will set, that value will come inside this value property. Internally it will come inside this value. This is the way how we are assigning it. This is the example I have given. It can be null, it can be something else. Don't confuse with the example. Because string value variableness set, of course, it will return its default value. But of course, the example will be different. The condition will be different. Whatever you are doing. The example, let's say you're having the age. So you're going to get the age for those people who are having greater than 80. If age is greater than 80, then you can create the account on our website. Because what are the website we are building, it is for the bigger student, not for the student who are learning in KG, LKG, or 4th and 5th. Because the website content is designed for the graduate student, not for the intermediate or high school student. So this way we are adding the condition over there. Make sense? If you have not assigned the value to any variable in the C sharp, in the C sharp, it will assign the default value. Integer default value is 0, the string default value is null, decimal default value is 0. So this way it will take the default value if you are not assigning the value there. Okay. Clear to everyone? Okay. So here we are not going to add any condition because I'm just going to create a simple class. You ask the question. That's why I have explained it in detail. Why we are creating the property, because property is a different topic, but still I explain to you for your curiosity. So do one thing, don't go into the property topic. Let me leave it and come to the simple class, whatever we are creating here. Let's make it simple. This way. This way. So we are not having any restriction, this simple one. So this is my private property, this is my public, this is also my public. It's a simple class we have created here now. Now the thing is, inside the class, I'm doing the things over here. So the requirement is we will add a method public void add method here. So what happens here actually when it is coming to creating the class in the real life, I'm not giving you the typical example you have gone through many times in your student life. That example I'm not going to give you here now. Let me give you the real example. When it is coming to working on a project on industry, in industry we are not actually keeping everything inside the one class. Even we having the two types of classes. Guys, what are the things I'm going to tell you here right now? Please understand it well. It is very, very important because nobody will tell you which is class, which is the object. People are actually confused. So come to the industry explanation of the class. So we having the two types of classes. We having the object class. It is my object class. So because this class object I will create like this way. How will create? I will create a student class object st equal to new student. So better to keep it in public class program because I'm keeping everything one place that it is giving there. So public static void main. I'm creating a student class object like this way here. So now usually what happens here, we actually keeping the things inside here itself where we having a method void display details. We define a simple class like this way. This example I'm sure you have seen typically many times. Same example I'm repeating for you so that you can relate it. Right line here. This is the one. Then I'm just putting here ID, and here this is my ID. This dot ID. Then we having the name where I'm keeping this dot name. I'm just keeping the address here. So that is this dot address. This one. So this is the way I just added a method to display the detail. So to display the detail, I will use a this st dot display detail. Make sure we made it public. This way. So it would be here st dot display detail. This I'm keeping now. It is a simple class example you have seen so many times where we create the student class, where we display the methods. It is a simple example for encapsulation. But trust me, in the real life, we never create a class like this way. It is always going to consider a bad practice over there. If you are creating the classes like this way in the project. Because the project label, we always consider the two types of classes. The first one is here object class. The second one is here we having the logical class here, logical class. So what are the methods we have written actually here? I will not put over here. I always create such method in a separate class. So what should be the logical class? Logical class should be here public class student operation. Let's say I have given this class. So what are the operation you are going to perform on the student? I will keep inside this class. So whatever the method I have defined, I will use here now. And of course, to display all the details, what I need to do here, I need to pass the student class object here. Student class object, I will pass here st. And st, I will use in place of this everywhere. This way. So ID will not come, of course, because ID is, of course, a private one. Only name and address will come this way. So we will not have the things like this way, actually, here. So what we have to do, whatever the private field we having, that private field I will set using the constructor. So I will create my student class constructor and all the private field we will set through it. So what are the ID we are having? This dot ID equal to ID I'm adding this way. So this is the way I will set the private field value. So here when I'm creating the object, that time I will pass the value. And now to display the detail, what I will do, I will create my student operation class object. So it would be here st operations this way equal to new student operation this way. And here we will set the another value st dot name, where I'm passing student name as Mohan. And here I'm passing st dot address equal to, I'm using the Noida this way. And finally, using the st operations dot, I will display the details. But make sure I'm passing the st here now. So this is the way we are displaying the detail using the third object here now. Even when it is coming to keeping the list of user. So here, what I will do, guys, just try to understand the thing, what I'm trying to explain. Don't write the code, I will share it because the intention is here. I'm not going to teach you the typical class, which you have seen everywhere over the internet. I'm teaching you that thing that actually you will work in the real life. Because simple people are using the classes and the typically it's written in the textbooks. The textbooks one I'm not teaching you here. So when it is coming to keeping the student data, so what we will do, we will make here a list of student here. So I'm creating here the list of student. So this is my student list. And of course it is a private one. I can add here a method public void add. So it will be here add student. Of course it will be here student st, where I will add it here now. So now what are the internal class we having? I will call the add method and I will return it this way. If you're willing to get the list of student, I will define here public, then list of student I will return from here. So it is student and get all here. And finally, I will return this students list this way. I'm adding the things now. So this is the way we are writing the things. Now let me explain the things here. Usually what happens here, what are the things you are learning in the college life? They typically add the things for adding the student, for removing the student inside the same class. But that is not going to consider a good practice. It is always considered a bad practice, because in the programming we having a concept of solid principle. So solid principles always says we should have a separate class for object. We should have a separate class for writing the logic. So logic, where we write logic, we write always inside the methods. Yes or no? Where you write the logic? Inside the class. Logic we always write inside a method, not inside directly at class level. Okay. So for writing the logic, we should define a method where we will write the logic like this way. And what are the object we having? This is the object. That object we will pass there as a parameter. That object I will use for the storage as well, so that I can perform the operation over there to deal with it. Okay. So in short, we say it is a class. In short, to object class, we say it's an object. That's why we say in the normal definition, objects are the real world entities. So this student class is the real world entities that is representing to a student. The student attribute like ID, name, address. What are the operations that a student will do, that we will do in a separate class here. So list is a collection in the C sharp. So whenever you're going to maintain a list of a student, so we are using a list collection in the C sharp. It is not an array. So I'm just creating a list of student. Through that, we are maintaining it simply now. Make sense to everyone? So now just write the code, whatever I have written here, to see it in action. Again, I'm sharing the things here. So code sharing URL, where I will share this code with everyone. This is the link I'm having. And there I will add the things now. So I share the complete code, open it. Now run it here. .NET run is a command. And you will see I'm getting the output here. Can you see? I'm getting the name as Mohan, address as Noida. This way I'm getting the things over here, simply. First complete the code, then do let me know you're getting the output, then I will explain the code again. What is happening here? Are you getting the things like this way? I have shared the link in the chat window. Please open that one so that you will see the code, what to write. Have you opened that one, everyone? So now let me explain the things over here. The intention is here I'm going to create a class to represent a student object. So whenever it is coming to representing a real world object, of course, we always create a class. So that's why I create a student class. And what are the student class attribute we having? Those I'm presenting with their four properties like this way: ID, name, address. This way we add it. Simple now. Now the thing is, now let's say this student detail you are going to add into the database. Or this student detail we are willing to retrieve from the database. So what happens here? Such operation we never write inside the same class in the real life. We always create a separate class where we write the logic so that we can add the student into the database. So right now we have not done any database operation, let's say SQL Server or anything else. So for the simplicity, I'm just using a list type here. So just consider this list type. It is going to save the things into DB here. Now I will write the logic inside this add method to save this student information to database. Right now we are saving into this student list over here. Make sense? This thing I'm doing here now. Even for the simplicity, just do one thing. Now let me initialize it, new list of student, so that it will not throw any exception. So this change I did finally like this way. So I just created here a list, then I'm adding a student. Another method is here for display a student detail. Yeah. Or you can just mention here a ID. Based upon the ID, just retrieve the student detail and display it. So that thing I'm just doing by passing here the student object and I'm returning it here. So from here, we are just inserting the data. Here, we just reading the data here. It is reading the data. If you're having the confusion, I can do one more thing. Let's make it more simple. Let's say I'm passing here integer ID. Okay. But in that case, I need to make it public ID. Let me make it more simple so that you will understood it. ID I'm just keeping here. Okay. I'm making it more simple. So now based upon the ID, I can retrieve the value. So from this list, I can write the logic to get it here. So student, I can get here. So this is my student ST equal to. So what are the list we having? From this list, I can get the things. Student dot where it is ST dot ID equal to ID. Then we having the first or default here. So this is a logic we write in the advanced C#, but for you, I'm writing the simple one. So just check this for each loop and run the logic like this way. I equal to 0, then whatever the student count we are having, to that we will run it. Okay. I'm writing simple logic for you. And now do check the ID is matching with what are the students ID we are having. This way. If ID is matching, then show the detail simply. Then I will show my detail. A student ID and name. So ID now I make public as well. So this will come like this way. And same way I'm putting for name, same way I'm putting for address. Leave it this way. This is for getting the user detail. So just mention here get by ID. This is for reading get one, get one. It is get all here. For getting all, we can just simply run the loop here. We don't need to mention any, thing here. Even yesterday, I just shown the loop example for the for each loop. You can use for each loop as well, okay? So even if you're not returning anything, I can mention in void like this one. As I mentioned in void here. Here I'm getting the list of student, I'm getting only one. And after this, just break the code execution over there. So this way we can simplify the code more if we're looking for the more simplicity. And here it will be now get all here for getting all student here. But before that, make sure we are adding them. So first, let me add the student. I'm adding the student here like this way. Then we are getting all of them. Simple. Now let me explain the things how it is working here for adding the student. Even you can do one more thing here. If let's say you having a confusion, I can simplify it more. Sorry for that. I made this code not as per the fresher level. I made as per the experience level, because I always think from the perspective of different level. Let me simplify it more for you. So the people who are the beginners, I know they having the always confusion. Now let me simplify it one more time. Integer ID. Then you are having a string, let's say name. They have, let's say, string address. Let's simplify it more like this way. I think it will be now more feasible for you to understand it. So now I just keeping everything here now, not keeping the things to the two places, so that you will have the more clarity now. So what happens here? I don't need to worry about creating the student here. I will now create the things only from here. From one place, everything can be done. Add multiple user here and address over there. Let's say Noida. One user I added, then I'm getting it here. Then I can add another user. It would be here, let's say 2. It would be here, let's say Ram. It would be here, let's say Delhi. This is a more simplified version of it now. So now it is a simple student class I added. Now it is a simplified code. I hope you will not now face any challenge to understand it here now. Then we are going to create a class where we just saving them, where we just retrieving them by ID or as a list. So this is the proper way to understand it now. For debugging, I will tell you as it is. I don't need to debug the code. Now let me tell you here how it is starting the things. So of course, when you are running the code, we are getting the student operation class object. Now in the student operation class object, I'm calling the add method. So when you're calling the add method, you're passing the student ID, you're passing the Mohan, you're passing the Noida. And inside it, add method, what is happening? I'm creating the student class object and assigning all the values like this way. And finally, this value I'm adding to the student list. Yeah, this one. Now, in the next line, I'm just calling the get all method. In get all method, what will happen? It will look into the this private list. How many students we having in this list? So the loop I'm running here to get the list of student, and we are repeating. We are showing the detail for ID, name, and address here. This is for get all. So this is the things we are doing here now for this purpose. You can see I'm getting here Mohan for this first call. With the second call also, again I'm getting the Mohan because I'm starting it from 0 every time. Then Ram, second it is returning to us. So Mohan and Ram are coming 2 times because this is for first time Mohan it is showing, but second time also I'm calling the get all method. So previous record it will show again, simple. It is not necessary to call the get all method 2 times, 1 time is sufficient. This way, first add them and then show only once, sufficient. Now, whatever the query you having, please do ask. Code I have already shared to the code file. Even I can share to the this place also. Look at the Google Doc file. There I have already shared the code. If you will check. Private data member you cannot access inside the child class. It is not possible. Only protected, public and internal you can access, not private one. Flow of the execution is it is starting from this public static void main method. This is a starting point for the program execution, where I'm creating the student operation class object. Then using this student operation class object, we are doing everything. So I'm calling its add method, where I'm passing the student ID, student name, and student address. So this ID, name, and address will receive here. So in the add method student operation, what I'm doing, I'm creating the student class object like this way. Then I'm adding to this built-in list of student here. Because we don't have the real database. So here I'm taking the student list as a database. Or you can say as a container over here. So to this list, we will keep adding the things. When you will expand this code to the database label, here I will write the logic to save into database. But here right now, I'm putting it over here now. Then we having the get by ID. In the get by ID, we just getting the things based upon this ID parameter. So based upon the ID, we are doing the things over here now. Then we having the get all method. In the get all method, I'm just getting the list of student. So for getting the list of student, I'm just consoling it. Simple now. Bikram, it is not confusing. It is looking to you confusing because such code you have not seen before. Everyone just simply created a class and everything they kept inside the one class itself. Such code we never write in the real life. We always separate the things as I have separated. That's why the people are not able to write the code whenever they are working on a real project. They didn't understood actually because they have not seen such a style of writing it. So what the style of writing I'm telling you here, we always use in the project. What other style is written in the books, in the textbooks, we never use. Trust me. So initially it might be difficult to understood because you have not done the things. But later on, when you will work on, you will understood it. Some people might not be understanding the property, the reason behind it. Property I have not explored here because everything I cannot explore in one example code. Still, people are confused. I have concised the things. When it will come to the project level, when you will elaborate it more, you will not get anything. So don't think everything I will put in one example. If I will do, you will think about, I'm not teaching you the C sharp because many people are thinking C sharp is similar to Java. Of course, it is similar to Java. Even in Java also, we write the same code. So when you will become a developer, when you will work on the real project, there you will find out such a style of writing the code. Initially, in the textbook, such a style is not written. Bakar, already example I have given for get and set. It's not the case I have not given the example. I have already given the example. But I have removed so that I can make the code simple. So that example I have removed. Initially, I have given the example for that. So I hope the things are clear to everyone. If you're looking for a simple example, I can make a simple class which I'm sure you have seen many times. Your teacher covered. It just create a simple class, just add their method, add student, display detail. I'm right. I'm sure such code many times you have seen in the textbooks and in your colleges as well. I'm right. Do you want to repeat the same code as you have learned in your colleges? You should learn the code as we write in the real project. This is the way how we do it. I hope that things are clear to everyone. Yes or no? Okay, thank you. Now let's come to the next topic. That is also very important. That is the inheritance. Shall we go ahead to the inheritance? Yes or no? Okay. So class and object we have done. Now come to the inheritance. So let me do one thing. I'm adding here one more file for the inheritance .cs. So inheritance, when it is coming to inheritance, let's say I'm creating here a class for bank account. So in the bank account class, of course, whatever the customer we will have, that will have a customer ID. This time I'm taking a very simple example because many people are getting confused. So I'm not making it complicated. I will make it this time simple. Okay. Private. Then we having the account number as integer type. Then I will use here public. I want to show the simple example, which I'm sure you have seen many times, that I'm doing. Name of the customer. And let's say address of the customer. Only let's say these things I'm using here inside this bank account class. I hope now things are simple. Easy to understood. Now let me create another class for saving bank, saving account. Okay, saving account. This is my saving account class, which I'm inheriting from this bank account class. This one. Okay. So whatever the account number, name, address we having. So account number I want to access here. So I need to make it protected one so that I can access in my child class. Otherwise, I will not access it. So it's I'm making it say a protected one this way. This is my public class here. Saving account. Similar way, we can have here current account class. This is my current account class. So all the account number, name, address are available here. What we need to have, we will have some common methods. Better to in place of address, let's say just to mention balance. Okay. I'm adding here a balance. As a balance, I'm using here decimal. Okay. Then I'm adding here a method public void deposit. So deposit the amount into your bank. So of course, what are the amount you having? You have to deposit into your and balance default value. I'm taking 0. Okay. So it will be a this dot balance plus equal to amount. Means what are the balance we having already that I'm going to add to the amount. If you're confused with plus and equal to, I can do like this way because many people don't know this syntax. So, so initially, what are the balance you having? Then new amount will be added to it. Am I right? This is for the deposit we having. Then we can have a method for withdraw as well. I'm having a method in bank account class for withdraw. Let's say withdraw method. So what are the amount you are going to withdraw? That would be the -1. But before that, let me check you having the balance to withdraw. So balance should be greater than the amount, then only withdraw is possible. Otherwise, it will show us a message balance is low. Am I right? Same message you get, balance is low. This I'm adding it for withdraw. But deposit you can do. For deposit, we don't have any such thing. So it should be greater than or equal to, because 0 account bank balance also can do. So this is for deposit and withdraw we having. And of course, these we made account number and balance as, these are the public one. Even we can add a method over here itself for adding the customer. That is void add. So when you are adding it, of course, I will receive the account number. I will receive the name. And of course, initially balance will be 0 for it. So it will be this dot account number like this way, this dot we having the name. So what are the name you are passing? That will become. Of course, balance should be the private. You are right. So this way we made the balance as a private name and account number. We are doing the things like this way, and the things can be done. I hope these are the basic methods I added: add, deposit, and withdraw. So these are the common method applicable to the saving account and the current account both. I'm right? Yes or no? So what are things are common for current account and saving account? We are keeping inside the parent class, but we having the specific method as well. A specific method can be there. Calculate the interest. Of course, in the current account, we don't get an interest, but for the saving account, we having the interest rate there. So what we can do here, we can add here a protected property for interest rate. Interest rate. By default, I'm keeping it 0. So interest rate, of course, in the saving account will be different. So let me define here a method. It would be here, calculate the interest. So I'm just defining here, let's say a public method decimal, and it is calculate the interest on it. Yeah, that's of course, in this, we having the interest rate, let's say right now it is 5.5. This way, I'm keeping it here. And finally, write the logic to calculate the interest. So it would be here decimal, and it would be here interest amount. So whatever the balance we having this dot, we will have the balance. Balance should be the protected one so that we can access in the child drive class as well. So this is my balance into interest rate, divide by 100, and make sure we are wrapping in the parenthesis. And finally, what are the interest rate I'm having, I will return. This is the code I have written for saving account. And this is a common method actually. So I can keep in my parent class like this way. And we can make it here a virtual. Okay. Or we can make it abstract as well if you're only willing to define. Abstract class concept I'm not going to introduce here, otherwise people will say you again make it complicated. Let's make it simple. Okay. So it will returning here return 0 by default. But here in the saving count I made, let's say it is now I'm using virtual, and this is my override. Here I'm overriding it. Okay. For current account, I'm not doing anything. I'm using it as it is. But for the saving account, I'm just going to override it here. So this is the example for method overriding as well. We did. And here I'm not doing anything. I'm just using as it is. So it will be by default 0. Nothing I'm doing over here now. So guys, I hope the things are clear to everyone. So this is my bank account, which I'm inheriting like this way here. And C# does not support the multiple inheritance. It only supports the single level and multi-level inheritance. Do you know it? Even hybrid inheritance, it does not support. C# only support the single level inheritance, which I did like this way. Even it can support the multi-level as well. Okay. Now let me create the things for this one. Public class, we having the inheritance class I'm creating. For example, then we will have public static void main method. Now I will create my saving count class object. Saving account equal to new saving count. Then in the saving count, I will add a new user and make sure add is also public. So I will pass account number and name. Let's say it is Mohan. Account number, let's say 101. Although we having the 16-digit account number, but we are keeping only 3-digit. So it's fine. Saving count, then we having calculate interest. So calculate interest actually it is returning to us. So we have to display here. So decimal interest, I'm just getting over here now. So here I'm just using console.write line and it will show the interest value here. Interest value, it will show to us. Clear? This is the way I'm doing it here. Multiple inheritance it does not support because of scope issue. Because two parent class can have the same name of method. So that time it always create the issue. Only in C++ it is possible for multiple inheritance. Here it is not. Interface topic I'm not starting today. Otherwise it will create more confusion. I will explain later on. Even on the YouTube, I already explained the difference between interface and the class label inheritance. So things are different. I'm not putting the people in the confusion today. Let's keep it simple. Okay. This is the way we added the saving count. And if you will try to run it, come to the C# project over here now. So this is my startup object. Yeah. So I can teach the things here, but of course, the things will be, the complicated. So though that's why I'm not covering the interface today, I'm just keeping the things till classes. So that the things are simple and easy to understood as well. I'm right? So let me mention a startup object. So it is a startup object like this way. An object name is inheritance. I'm putting here. Now build and run it. It is .NET build. Then .NET run. So I'm getting the interest 0 because the balance I didn't pass from here. I need to, deposit I have not done. Let me do the deposit first. Saving account. We have not deposit any amount and we are saying we should get interest rate. Of course, bank will give 0. Okay. Now let me run it again. So now you can see we having the interest as 55 rupee. Okay. So working fine here. So in this example, we have done the inheritance. We have done the method overriding also. For overriding, you need to mention the virtual at the parent class label. At the child class label, use the override method here, like this way. For current account, I have not added any other scenario. I'm keeping it simple, but it can be extended further to do the things if you're willing to do over there. Okay. And finally, I'm going to share this code with you so that you can test and try. Do you have any query about it? Now we are sharing the video. Don't worry about it. We already consider the everyone request of sharing the video. But don't leave the session, because when you are joining the things live, you are asking your queries. Otherwise, what will happen? What are the doubts will come at the time of learning from the video? No one is there to help you. Code I have already shared. Just look at from the chat. Old class video already uploaded for day 1, day 2, day 3. Tomorrow we will upload. Don't worry about that. Of course, to become a full stack developer, you have to learn so many things. Tomorrow I will take such type of question. Don't worry. Tomorrow class will be very important class to everyone, where I will share the things, how to prepare for the next level. I'm sure many people are willing to become a full stack developer. They might be looking for getting the job. So these things we will discuss tomorrow. Okay. This all the day 5 code I will share. Don't worry. All day 5 code I will share after tomorrow session. So now here I'm just giving you the another assignment which you have to complete. And tomorrow I will check yesterday one as well and today one as well. So assignment for today is you have to make a contact book. What are the class I created today? Based upon the today class, you have to make a contact book. So build a contact book using the C# classes to manage your contact. So this is the project you have to create. Already the similar things I did here with the student. If you will look at here, similar way you have to manage. Here, build a contact book project using the C# classes. How will make the contact book? Of course, contact book is similar to your phone numbers you having in your phone, where you are keeping the name and phone number. That is your contact book. So tomorrow everyone need to submit this project and the yesterday one, 2 project. right? You have to make a list. There you have to add the things. There is no attendance. Attendance we are taking already through Zoom automatically. Don't worry about that. So tomorrow you have to present all the project, the people who will showcase the project properly. So today's session I'm wrapping here. If you have any query, doubt, please do ask. So detail of the assignment already mentioned. You have to make a contact book using the classes, an object. What detail you need apart from this? In the contact book, you will have the name, you will have the phone number. That's it. Simple. So tomorrow you have to submit the project. Even I will share the link of joining this workshop as well. So certificate you will get tomorrow. Okay.